All right. Hello, we are live. Welcome to episode 133 of the Below the Yellow Line podcast. I'm your host, Joe Landy Pavlon. Tonight with me, I have my colleague, Justin Hemric, on the
Yep.
show. And we're going to bring you all of what you need to know from the action happened on the racetrack and across the motorsports world from this past weekend. And there's just a lot on the line in these championships, especially NASCAR. We're going to bring it up all, of course, that's how we start. And I know we got the ALCS going on, so I don't think we're going to have too long of an episode tonight. Also, due to the part of the amount of motorsports that were happening this weekend, not a lot of storylines here. I will bring up a segment on Dan Weldon around the tail end of the show, and we can discuss, everything. From our perspectives of after 10 years of the tragedy at Las Vegas in the IndyCar race that took the life of the 2005 champion and the two-time Indy 500 winner, Dan Weldon. We'll get into some of the stuff that's going on in sports car racing, a lot of news in Formula One, new season's out. We'll talk some testing and what we've learned in NASCAR so far with the new car, as well as the championships that are going on, and a lot of other things to talk about. But let's first up NASCAR, as we always do, the NASCAR Cup Series race. For the last time in the Gen 6 era and in the 2021 season, we had a 500-mile race, Texas Motor Speedway. And I think we said it last week, if Kyle Larson can win the Coca-Cola 600, he had to get through mile 500 to win it. Well, that's what you need to do, win these 500-mile races. He finally got it done. And everybody points at Atlanta saying the race that Larson lost. Well, he never looked back at Texas. Once he took the lead, it almost seemed like it was no contest.
Yeah.
Start of the round of 8 usually is an interesting one because it really just paints the picture of the rest of the round of 8 leading into the championship race. And that's what you're going to get. Pretty much like last year when Logano won the opening race in the round of 8, we started realizing, hey, maybe Harvick isn't just a lock to get into the championship for. And that snowballed into Harvick's out. And he never even got a chance to race for the championship at Phoenix. And honestly, Kyle Larson did everything that he needed to do in this round to win it. It was essentially if Kevin Harvick were to pass Joey Logano last year at Kansas to win the opening round of 8 race in that case. But for the Larson fans out there, they can breathe a little. But the pressure's still on. That doesn't mean that it's a lock that he's going to win this championship. You still have to get through the Phoenix race, and it looks like if he can get through all the kinds of tracks, road courses, new circuits, and whatnot, then maybe Phoenix should be definitely on that list of a good track for Larson. Kyle Larson led 256 of the 334 laps in this race. It almost looked like Larson knew how the car works, even when these races start off cold turkey with the green flag dropping. Now, that speaks volumes. I know I finally found a word to say racing without practicing qualifying. I'll just call it cold turkey.
Yeah, that's what broadcasters say, too.
Once you're out there, the car you have is the car you got to deal with, and it's up to you to adjust it. And competition cautions can only help you so much. The stage 1 caution can only help you so much, but really you're on your own still. And you have cars that are ready to pounce on your mistakes, that are working hard to catch up to where you're at.
Yeah.
Let's say there were practice sessions, there were qualifying sessions. How would Kyle Larson do in the races? That's up for you to think and decide. But guess what? The point of the matter is that Kyle Larson, he's the real deal. Hendrick Motorsports is the premier team of 2021.
Yeah.
I don't think they were the premier team last year when Chase Elliott won the Drivers' Championship, believe it or not.
They were still getting a backup random after 2017. They did not the best in 2017 compared to 2016. 2018, they really struggled. 2019, they were kind of starting to get up there. 2020, the same. 2021, that's where they started, getting the wins. Chase Elliott has,
I would say that Hendrick Motorsports, I'd say from Jimmy Johnson's last championship in 2016 to Chase Elliott's championship in 2020 was kind of like a 1 to 2 driver team where two of the four drivers were taking a hold of the entire team's success.
Yeah, but sometimes it actually was only one sometimes.
Right, but
yeah, it was one
championship standings. You would see them show up.
Yeah. Yeah, it was always between one or two drivers at Hendrick, while the other two would struggle. This year, all of the Hendrick cars has had wins. Kyle Larson has the most. Then after that, Alex Bowman, he has 3 wins. I know he's not been doing good recently, but he still has 3 wins. Chase Elliott has, I think, 2 wins this season. And then William Byron has a win, but William did get that win at Homestead. So yeah, all 4 Hendrick cars, they have wins.
And they're strong, and I feel like it can only get better next year depending on the adjustment to the new car. If we go back to 2008 and 2013, guess what? New car bodies.
Yeah.
Still won the championship, and if you want to count 2007 to that as well, still another championship.
But in 2018, when they switched from, the SS to Camaro, Hendrick Motorsports did struggle. Jimmy Johnson.
It's a bit of an arrow
related
situation as well.
Jimmy Johnson was the team leader with Chase Elliott, who was there in his third full-time season at Hendrick, with Alex Bowman, his first season at Hendrick, but he didn't run full-time since 2015. And then William Byron, who was a rookie in that 2018 season.
And it was a very shaky rookie year for William Byron. A lot of people had questioned whether or not it was even the right decision to put him in the Cup Series back then, and even to die. But I think, hey, looking back at it now, he's where he belongs.
Yeah.
By the way, William Byron, let's not forget, he led 55 of the 334 laps yesterday and brought it home in second. Really could have been a threat for Kyle Larson, I'm sure, had Byron been in this position to win this championship, which he's not anymore. He might have driven differently, and I know the last thing you need is bad blood, but everyone's out there for themselves. It's just a package where you go with the momentum, and you just have to take what you got. Sometimes, look what happened at Reddick. It's not uncommon to see drivers, push hard in the restarts, the start of the race, and it's going to be very interesting to see where this follows, because the championship is so tight after Larson being locked in, and I don't think anybody can lock in without winning or being lucky.
Yeah, because let's
keep on with the results. So I'll explain why that is. Christopher Bell, I'm sure he would have had a great outing if he wasn't in the championship hunt. It would have been a better deal for him. Bell stayed out of trouble. That's why he got it in third. It started in 11th place. Brad Keselowski still has a lot of work to do if he wants to win his second championship in his final year at Team Penske, 9 years after his 2012 title.
Yeah.
Keselowski finished 4th. Kevin Harvick finished in 5th. 6th place went to Ryan Blaney, and Ryan Blaney right now, he's in a good spot points-wise, but there's still work to do.
Well, he's actually 4th.
Right. Chase Elliott.
Yeah, he's below the cutoff.
Chase Elliott is in 7th. Kyle Busch, last year's winner at Texas, actually the defending winner going into this race because we didn't have a spring race. Kyle Busch won stage 1, led 20 laps, started 3rd, and finished in 8th. He did overcome some damage on the car, and luckily he lucked out into this top 10 finish, but definitely had battle scars in the end on his interstate batteries. Camry, guess what? It's 30 years since interstate batteries and Joe Gibbs Racing, that 18 team. This is just a fixture in the sport for so long. Can't believe 3 decades now. Tyler Reddick decided his first best finish of 2nd in the Cup Series last year. Reddick was contending for the win, but his worn tires got the better of the RCR driver, which put Reddick to 9th place in the finishing board, ironically, where he started in the race. Started and finished P9th. And Daniel Suarez finished in the top 10. He finished P10, driving for Trackhouse Racing, and he started in P19. Unfortunately, the team he used to drive are not happy right now, I don't think, after the contact that was made between himself and Martin Truex Jr. We'll talk a little bit more on the incidents as we go down the results. Denny Hamlin really lucked out with this 11th place finish. His crash at the end of the race, towards the end, nearly took him out altogether. But Hamlin rallied back. He led 2 laps in the race, started second, but finished in 11th. A great comeback after a late race crash. Give a call to 54-year-old David Starr from Texas. David Starr got his career best finish of 23rd. He drove for Carl Long's team, MBM Motorsports. Started all the way back in 38. A top 25 in that car and having to work that hard for a long race at Texas Motor Speedway. That was definitely a great sight to see. In effect, of course, David Starr, when he races at Texas Motor Speedway, has a lot of fans that comes from his hometown. So it's always a great sight to see that.
Yeah.
Also to Garrett Smithley, 24th place career best finish for the second time in Smithley's career. He started 36th in the race, brought it home in the top 25.
Yeah, good for them.
25th place finish is a different story. Martin Truex Jr.'s retirement after leading 1 lap and started in the 8th spot. Unfortunately for Martin Truex Jr. fans, he's got a lot of work to do in these next 2 races, and luckily these next 2 tracks are very good for Martin Truex Jr.
But we'll see what happens.
Right. It's all talk before the green flag drops. And the same for Joey Logano.
Whoa.
Same scenario for Logano. Bad race at Texas. 2 great tracks remaining in the round of 8 for him based off his past in the Cup Series. Joey Logano should be looking forward to the next 2 races very fondly. Logano, unfortunately, started 5th. And I just read a stat from J-Ski saying that this was the first engine that expired on Joey Logano's Cup Series car for Team Penske since 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
That race was 7 years ago, but that speaks volumes.
It was actually 2014. I remember it was a race in 2014. Oh, it was Kentucky 2014. His last engine. Oh, my. I just saw a misplay on Sportsnet, and it's, remember Spencer Boyd's fuel can? And the track marshal slipped at Bristol? Yeah, they showed that as a misplay. I know that's irrelevant of what we're talking about, but I just thought that was funny. But other than, Joe Logano, 7 years since an engine failure at Penske. That is crazy statistic there.
Well, let's talk about the championship standings now. 1 race down, 2 to go in the round of 8 for the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. What does that mean? Well, Kyle Larson is the first driver to punch his ticket into the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series Championship Final 4 race at Phoenix with his win at Texas. He is now locked in. He takes up 1 of 4 spots in this championship hunt. A definite advantage for the mindset and the mood, really, for the Hemric garage. Of course, other than being on the 9 team side of things. But if you're in the 5 team, it's all sunshine and roses right now, but hey, there's nothing guaranteed to be sunshine and roses in the Cup Series, as we've seen time and time before. Ryan Blaney may be second, but he has only 17 points above the cut line. No guarantees of a momentum being gained. In fact, if you look at the Xfinity Series, if someone says they're 17 points above the cut line, that's actually a small margin. Denny Hamlin is third, +9 above the cut line. Had he have been trouble-free in yesterday's race and had a little better luck, he might have been in a position where he could have pointed his way into clinching the final 4 spot in the next 2 races without winning. But you know what? He still has 9 points above the cut line, and a great Kansas race will suit Denny Hamlin very well. We'll see what happens. Kyle Busch, Hamlin's teammate, the 2-time Cup Series championship. That's, of course, something Denny's fighting hard to get that. Kyle's won it twice. +8 above the cut line. He's the 4th and final driver into the championship. And I know these guys are hoping that there are no new winners in the round of 8 outside of Kyle Larson. Some of these teams want to see that happen. Others want them to win themselves. But it's a tough situation if you're in Team Penske or Joe Gibbs Racing for sure. Chase Elliott's the first driver beneath the cut line. He's -8 points. The defending champion goes to Kansas Speedway, where he's won before. So we'll see where that happens. And of course, Brad Keselowski has had success at Kansas before. Minus 15 from the cut line. Can the 2012 champion find his stride just enough to get to this position? Martin Truex Jr., the 2017 champion, has always found consistency in his time with Joe Gibbs Racing. It just seems like 22 points beneath the cut line might call for a win at Kansas or a win at Martinsville. But we know how Martin Truex Jr. performs in these races, and definitely we know how Joey Logano performs in these circumstances, where he has to win races outright to get into the next round at all. He has won those races too. Logano is minus 43 beneath the cut line, and he's in danger of being in a must-win situation exclusively. If another race goes bad at Kansas, he'll be in that position.
Yeah.
So Kansas Speedway will be our final intermediate speedway round of the season. Our final 400-mile race of the year.
Yeah.
Martinsville Speedway will be our final short track race of the season.
Yeah.
And then, of course, our final mile length track will be Phoenix to close the entirety of the 2021 campaign.
Yeah.
Is Kyle Larson? If Kyle Larson, like this season, let's just think about when we were here in around this time last year, going into November, actually, because that's what the Texas race was in a different day. We learned that same weekend that Larson was getting signed by Hemric Motorsports for 2021, replacing the team that Jimmy Johnson left.
Yeah.
And Larson, everybody said, "Oh, he's a great fit," or expect greatness. And I'm like, okay, I'll expect greatness, but don't be so black and white about it. He's still joining a new team. He did miss, I'd say, about 85 to 90% of last year in the Cup Series.
Yeah, he actually only ran the first 4 races of 36.
Right. And thinking about it, like if Larson, and I think I might have said this before. Don't quote me on this, but I think I said in one of the episodes last year, if Kyle Larson's really that good, and everybody talks so well about Chip Ganassi racing in NASCAR, then how come he only has 6 wins? And I think I said that. I was a little bit skeptical on Larson, winning just 6 times. And I know that he could have won a lot more in his time with Ganassi, but he did outperform a lot of the equipment he drove for. And his teammate, for a while, Jamie McMurray, nothing against him, but he was definitely off his stride in the last several years of his career.
Yeah.
And then Kurt Busch came in, kind of helped the team a little bit. And I wish we would have seen more of Kurt and Larson together because it was kind of a short-lived stint those two drove together, the same team. But, I mean, come to think of it, Kyle's he's a raw, talented driver. He's passed so many tests that a lot of critics have given to him this year. Can you win these races without practice and qualifying? Remember when he ran those 4 races in 2020, didn't have the cold turkey racing. It was just the normal weekend structure. He passed that test. He won Las Vegas, 4 races in?
Yep.
Dominated the race. Started winning road courses. He won 3 races on the road courses this year.
Yeah. And he's the first driver to win more than 2 road courses in a season. He broke that record this season. But when the Roval, he's been so impressive this season. He finally won a Bristol race this year. He wanted to win a Bristol race in the Cup or Xfinity Series. He finally did that, which was good for him.
And that was one of the toughest races out there this entire year. And everybody would say, okay, Larson's got a few chances this year. He might win again at the dirt race at Bristol. That might be it. I'm like, what are you talking about? And in fact, Larson didn't even win that race yet. I don't know. People are too assumptive on Twitter.
Yeah, the thing is, people say, oh, it's going to be a dirt ringer win the dirt race. No, it ended up being Joe Logano of all people. But you know what was funny about that Bristol dirt weekend?
Yeah.
Joe Logano crashed out in the iRacing event and ended up winning the real life event. But other than that, it's still Kyle Larson. He's been just so fast at many different tracks, short tracks, intermediates, super speedways. He's not been that lucky, but he's not been bad there. And he's good at the road courses. He's been good at many types of tracks, which does help you in a Cup Series season.
Right. Don't forget, Kyle Larson is an overall winner for the 24 Hours of Daytona 6 years ago. It was with Ganassi.
Yeah.
So just take that as you will. He's a talented driver. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And he's got a long way to go. I think that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the guys of the World of Outlaws and the dirt racing, they're glad Kyle's off to the Cup Series.
Yeah, because
go there, don't on your weekends, not here.
Well,
I want to run it. I want to win races again.
Like, remember Kyle Larson? Like, remember when he was not racing NASCAR? Remember people kept posting, "Oh, Kyle Larson won another dirt race." he kept winning dirt races when he was not racing NASCAR.
The sky is blue last time I checked. So Kyle Larson won a dirt race. That's the same thing.
Like Kyle Larson, like he's just so fast, and I did not expect this speed out of the 5 car. Like I thought it was going to be between Chase Elliott would be a bit better than I thought it would have been more like the lead Hendrick car, but I did not expect Kyle Larson to be in that position. But Kyle,
Elliott's not doing anything different really.
No,
I don't see any decline or anything. It looks like Elliott's still picking up where he left off from last year.
But Kyle Larson, he's just been the man at Hendrick. He's the one winning. Like, the Seattle Kraken Philly just scored on Seattle. 1-0 for the Phillies.
Well, we'll see. We'll talk more about the playoff drivers when we go to our race preview segment of this podcast. Let's talk about what happened on Saturday. There's a lot to break down there as well.
Oof.
John Hunter Nemechek had a great outing on Saturday. It was an interesting call by his crew chief. A 2-tire stop won him the race.
Yeah, Chris Gale. Yep, his crew chief Chris Gale, who's now back in the Xfinity Series. He was the crew chief for Eric Jones last year in the 20, but he moved down to the 54 camp in Xfinity.
That's a stellar crew chief, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
John Hunter Nemechek is also a stellar driver. Let's not forget.
Yep.
This 54 team has worked so hard to be in this owners championship fight, and now they're one step closer to winning it. And let's talk about the race itself. This, of course, round 30 of 33 is the first of 3 races in the round of 8 in this playoffs that will eventually determine our championship 4.
Yep.
So John Hunter Nemechek won stage 2. He led 92 laps in this race, started in the 10th spot. His second career win is his first since Kansas Speedway of 2018. It's been a while.
Yep.
And of course, this is Joe Gibbs Racing's number 54 Toyota Supra's entry into the Owners Championship race. So they will compete against 3 other teams, or cars, should I say.
Yeah.
Owners Championship fight. And, there's a lot of hard work in that 54 team this year. They have put so many pieces together. They got it right. And Ty Gibbs has a lot to be thanked for that.
Yeah, Ty Gibbs. Kyle Busch
really surprised us in his starts.
Kyle Busch has won every start that he ran the 54. He won. So Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, remember he got a win in that car at at New Hampshire.
He's literally 3 for 3 in his starts there, all perfect.
Yeah. So like those 3 drivers, and Denny Hamlin did not win, but he made a start in that car. Ty Dillon ran a few starts.
Yeah, Martin Truex, the Daytona race.
Martin
Truex Jr. had a good race at
Atlanta, but he had a penalty, so he had to fall in the back. But he dominated until his penalty, which gave Allgaier the win at Atlanta. But still, it was good for this 54 team. And John Hunter Nemechek, back in 2018 when he won at Kansas, he drove the Ganassi 42 car. And the person that finished second in this race finished second in that race in 2018 at Kansas.
He was also competing for a championship for He drove them for Rich Children. We're talking about Daniel Hemric here.
Yep.
Daniel Hemric, actually, I mean, he's a great driver. And you know what? I think there are a lot of drivers that he's better than that have won races in the series, if you want to put it right. Because Hemric with no wins, he is a lot better than some of the drivers in the history of the series that have won races. But he's getting there. And you know what? I'm sure a win would have been better considering where his competitors in the championship finished. But to finish second to your teammate like that was a good run for both drivers. Hemric led 55 laps. He started third, but this is the not so fortunate record that he tied. Career best finish of second, which is ties Dale Jarrett for most runner-ups before first win in the Xfinity Series. Dale Jarrett got 10 runner-ups before his first win. So there's no better time to get a runner-up or a win or finishing up there anyways. So
the Flyers just got another goal a few minutes after, so it's 2-0 Flyers. I guess they're gonna dominate the Kraken at the home game for the Flyers. Yes. Well,
let's keep on with the results. So Junior Motorsports, let's not forget them. They had a good run too. No laps led between Noah Gragson and Justin Allgaier, but third and fourth is what they have to do because it's a lot different of a story for these drivers. They got to work hard. They might have to be lucky. But there is no pointing in. There's either you win in or you hope someone else beneath you in the standings doesn't win, beneath fourth in the cut line doesn't win.
Yeah.
But there are no promises in these next three races. Austin Cindric led stage one. He won stage one, led 34 laps, started second, finished fifth. His foe, AJ Allmendinger, finished sixth, started first, led 13 laps, had a pretty up and down day, but brought the car home in one piece, exactly what he needed to do to stay in this championship fight. He does lead the point standings. Justin Haley is seventh in the finishing order. He started in fourth. Harrison Burton, eighth. He's got a lot of work to do. Led 6 laps, started eighth, finished eighth. Michael Annett, good run for Michael Annett in his waning moments of being a NASCAR driver. Started ninth, stayed in the top 10. He ran a lot of laps in the top 5, but fell back to ninth. A good race for him.
Yeah, solid race for the one.
Brandon Jones, who's got a lot of work to do. He started in seventh.
Well, he does have. He has a good race at Kansas coming up. That he's won races there. He's won 2018, 2019, and 2020. The first race in the second.
That was a filler race in July.
Yeah, but he won. But he's trying to get another win there. His third one at Kansas, which is possible for him.
All right, let's talk about the point standings because there's a lot to break down here. No one's locked in the championship for it yet. Of course, 1 of 3 races are complete. Texas is in history books. We go to Kansas Speedway and Martinsville Speedway. 2 different types of tracks here. 2 different kinds of racing that we got on the table. And a lot on the line for these drivers. But I'd say if you're AJ or Austin Cindric, you're kind of in a different scenario. You'll have to play it a little bit differently than the guys beneath you in points, even those that include Justin Allgaier and Noah Gragson that are still over fourth. So AJ Allmendinger is 30 points above the cut line. If it stays like this, no new winners or any of that, or he wins, he's probably an easy lock to get in.
Well, it all depends how Kansas goes.
No promises. We've seen that before. Same with Austin Cindric, just 4 points beneath. AJ, 26 over the cut line. I think Kansas Speedway might be a good track. We'll see where it goes. But just look at 2018. History tells you things that had happened that you need to not rule out. 2018, the opening lap, opening corner, all the championship contenders were wiped out in less than half a lap.
Yeah.
So outside of the top 2, let's go to third and fourth. It's a different ball game for these guys. Justin Allgaier, 4 points above the cut line, and his teammate Noah Gragson, 2 points above the cut line. The 2 junior motorsports drivers.
Yeah, it's really close.
Certainly is. Then fifth place, Daniel Hemric, -2 beneath the cut line. That's see the difference between winning. If he won the race, boy, that would have shaken things up for the junior motorsports guys. Justin Haley's -6 beneath the cut line. He's in range to point in, but there's still work that he needs to do. And ironically, AJ winning would hurt his teammate Justin Haley's chances to get in the Final Four a little more if you think about it. Than these two drivers for Joe Gibbs Racing. So I think Daniel Hemric is kind of in a different universe than Harrison Burton and Brandon Jones, especially Brandon Jones. Harrison Burton's minus 21 beneath the cut line, but he's got two good tracks coming up. Brandon Jones' best statistical track in the Xfinity Series is Kansas Speedway. He's 32 beneath the cut line. That's a bit dangerous to be in if you're Brandon Jones. But if he can repeat some history, which he's done twice before winning at Kansas, it will be very beneficial. But also at the expense of two of his teammates as far as the Drivers' Championship is concerned. Why am I saying that? The Owners' Championship does have a little bit of a competition of difference over there. Right now, the Owners' Championship top four is, of course, locked in. We're going to put the 54 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota in that slot. They are in the championship 4 position, and it's confirmed, if I'm not mistaken, that Hunter Nemechek will compete in car 54 at Phoenix.
Yeah.
So he'll be there racing for a championship for the team.
Oh, yeah, for the Owners' Championship. But for the main championship, that 54 is ineligible because other than having like Ty Gibbs is and Ty Dillon, the only two drivers that drove that car who are eligible for Xfinity points. The other drivers like Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Nemechek, Hamlin, and Truex are all Cup drivers or truck drivers. They get those points. Well, Xfinity, they don't get points. Okay, now it's 3-0 Flyers. Okay, Seattle, are you trying right now? It's 5:24 left in the first. They're already down 3-0. My.
I was gonna say, like, there is still difference. What are the other teams in the Owners' Championship? Of course, Car 22, Roger Penske's team.
The 16.
That's the Carlson Center drive. 16, Colleague Racing. 7, of course, we could probably get 1 or 2 entries from Junior Motorsports in that, either the 7 or the 9. The 1 is still there, but it would be win dependent.
Like right now, I'm looking at you got the 54, the 16, 22, and then it's the 7s in ahead of the 9. The 7 over the 9. That behind the 9 in points, the Junior Motorsports 9 is the number. Let me find the number. I have it here.
It's the 18.
No, yeah, the 18, then the 11. The last place one, 8th, is the 1 Junior Motorsports car.
I'd say from I mean, it's close. I mean, from the 18 on back, they might just have to win it outright.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's still a lot on the line in the Xfinity Series, despite having just 3 races remaining and 2 races to go in this round of 8. The championship is far from over. And let's talk about sports car racing now. I think we've got the NASCAR down. We're going to have a lot more NASCAR discussion later in our race previews, but let's bring up something that was very controversial, but in the end, I guess the rules are the rules. And a lot happened at the Brickyard over the weekend. And let's talk about this weekend's premier event at Indy, the 2021 8 Hours of Indianapolis. That's race 2 of 3 in this year's Intercontinental GT Challenge. A shortened season with the postponed or the canceled 12 hours of Bathurst, the Bathurst 12 hours. We had the Spa 24 hours, which of course was part of the GT World Challenge Europe and Europe Endurance Cup.
Yeah.
And then this race is part of the GT World Challenge America's finale race.
Yep.
Race 2 of 3, of course, this 8-hour round was very chaotic. A lot of controversy and some interesting storylines leading up to this race. Of course, defending manufacturer winner BMW didn't even get a chance to make the grid. The M6 GT3 and pulled out.
Yeah.
And of course, was fielded by Turner Motorsport, not Walkenhorst like we had last year. A lot of mid-race penalties, I'd say. I mean, a lot of post-race penalties as well. That's some change things up. It was an interesting race, but in the end, it was Audi that reigned supreme. It seemed like the factory drivers did very well at holding off on a lot of the teams. In the end, it was 265 laps that completed this race. We'll go down the overall results and look at all the classes. The top 5 overall were in the overall pro class for this event. Give a call to number 25, Audi. It's Team Saintéloc Racing Audi. R8 LMS GT3 Evo. The drivers, of course, Patric Niederhauser, Markus Winkelhock, and Christopher Haase, taking the win. Completed 265 laps, 8 hours and 59 seconds. That was a long race. The gap was 11 seconds. Second place finisher was the number 89. And this was an interesting story because they had an upset win last week in the GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup finale at the 3 Hours of Barcelona. It was the 89 ACA ASP Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. Drivers for that car were Teamer Boguslavski, Daniel Hunkadella, and Rafael Marcel. 2 of the 3 drivers were in the overall winning lineup from last week's race, the 3 Hours of Barcelona. Third place overall was an interesting one. K-Pax Racing. Number 3, K-Pax Racing, Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, with Jordan Pepper, Marco Bortolotti, and Andrea Caldarelli taking over that charge. And that's an interesting team because they weren't really supposed to field all those cars this year until the Orange One FFF Racing team pulled out on the last minute due to travel issues. Fourth place overall and in class was the number 54 AF Corsa Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. Drivers Alessandro Pierre Guidi, who got the pole winning time. Nicholas Nielsen and Kame Ladogar. Those are the 3 drivers that won the 2021 GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup Drivers Championship for Iron Lynx Racing and the Spa 24 Hours. So they won the first race of the season in a different team. Same car, different team, and then they won it for AF, or they didn't win it, but they ran this race in AF Corsa. Same 3 drivers. Of course, those drivers also won in the Pro class, GTE Pro, LMGT Pro at Le Mans this year. So it's been a good run for those guys. But unfortunately, it ended in controversy when the car that I believe was driven by, it was either Pierre Guidi or Ladogar at the time, in the final restart, clipped the class-leading number 77 Compass Racing Acura NSX GT3, driven by, I think it was Mario Farnbacher, resulting in a time penalty for the 51 Ferrari. They got 2 different time penalties, and it was a frustrating race for the AF Corsa team. We'll get more into that a little bit later. Fifth place overall was the number 32 Team WRT. This is another controversy right here. Number 32 Team WRT Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo. Now these guys won the outright GT World Challenge Europe Championship with Dries Van Tor and Charles Weerts. They also the team won the outright championship in the teams for the Endurance Cup in Europe. They had the win in the bag, but guess what put them out of it? The steward said, drive-through penalty, car 32, improper procedure during safety car. I don't know what rule they broke, but they broke some rule that nothing seemed wrong on my eyes. I mean, my 2 eyes. I'm not medically in need of wearing glasses, but clearly I didn't think I seen anything wrong under the safety car procedure. But I guess, in the end, the verdict said, nope, you broke the rules. Drive-through penalty, see in the pits, and that's that. Well, here's the other controversy, and this was this affected car 71. Unfortunately, the 71 car, which was driven by Callum Islet at the time, was actually leading the race outright. As you see, it finished 28 laps behind the overall winner because it was about over an hour or so before the finish. Comfortable lead, and one of the slower cars, I forgot who it was, but it was a slower car. I think it was I think it was the Aston Martin number 09 from Automatic Racing. It was a GT4 car. I forgot who drove it at the time, but clearly pinned Ilot's car against the safer barrier before the heavy braking turn 1, sending Ilot into, the access road and out of the race.
Yeah.
And, that was a hot discussion because everyone was saying, hey, well, what's the need? Why deal with this? And it was just a gutting moment, I'd say. There were a lot of missed calls in this race. We'll get into that. Let's get into the classes, though. Let's talk about we had a lot of classes in this race. Let's talk, first of all, about the Silver Cup. That the class winner in the Silver Cup finished 6th overall. It wasn't their win. They didn't win it physically, but it was given to them by the stewards after a time penalty. The car that got penalized was the 26, Saintéloc Racing. They were given a post-race drive-through equivalent penalty of 53 seconds for entering a closed pit lane, which took them out of the class win. But they still finished second out in the Silver Cup, so there you had that. So yeah, pretty tough call, I'd say. A lot of people. I was looking at the live chat, and usually I just stay away from live chats, but it seemed like people in the live chat were upset about a lot of the things that were being done in the stewards room. And even Calvin Fish, who is usually a respectable commentator, said, and I quote, "I would like to try what the stewards are smoking in race control." Now, I don't think it's our place to, hate race control or people that run the sanctioning bodies, but was it too much? And I'm just thinking, maybe the officials put too much in. Justin, I'm gonna let Justin get his headset on so I can talk to him about this. But Justin, I was going to say in this race, there were a lot of questionable calls in the 8 Hours of Indy that the SRO group's officials were having. Even Calvin Fish, a well-respectable commentator who's been, he was a race car driver himself and was a long-time motorsports commentator for endurance racing.
Yeah.
He said, "I would like to try what the stewards are smoking in race control."
Oh my!
Live broadcast. And I would like to think if someone breaks bias, commentators are not really supposed to do that. We're not really supposed to do that. But that's a bit of a maybe an alarm had went off and said from people that are supposed to stay neutral about these things.
Yeah, but oh jeez, like stuff like that. Like one thing, I know that the things were questionable of what happened, but also you don't want to talk about that on live TV. It's like this is unrelated, but don't know what happened during the Cup broadcast yesterday at Texas. Guess what happened?
What?
NASCAR, they all NASCAR, they always want to listen to team communications on TV. Guess what Kyle Busch leaked?
What?
Kyle Busch leaked Steve O'Donnell's email address on TV. Some people caught his email address. It's like, you don't want to talk too much about it, but the penalties were weird, but you don't want to say that on live on a broadcast. I know it was also on YouTube, but still, you don't want to say stuff.
It was on TV as well as CBS Sports.
Yeah. You don't want to say that in front of an audience.
And remember, the SRO group, this is no little serious here. They run most of the major GT races around the globe.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with the same governing body. It's not like you're going to leave them when you go cover another race somewhere. But it's just what the deal is. Let's talk about the other classes now. The results are the results. It's number 77, Compass Racing, Acura NSX GT3 Evo. In fact, that car could have won this race outright with how McMurray, Farnbacker, and Harrison Henry were driving. Ashton Harrison Henry, Matthew McMurray, and Mario Farnbacker. They finished 6th overall, but first in the Silver Cup completing 265 laps, getting the class win. Now, it wasn't given to them physically. Physically winning the class was actually the 26th car before getting the 53-second time penalty, so they were last in the lead lap.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, 53 seconds is a bit weird. Of all numbers, 53 seconds. It's really specific. Compared to like 30 or 20 or 10, 53.
Yeah, that was number 26, Saintéloc Racing, Audi R8 LMS GT3, Erlen Pani, Lucas Leger, and Nicolas Bayert were the drivers for that car. Acura actually got a double podium. It was number 93, Racers Edge Motorsport. Acura NSX GT3 Evo finished first car overall lap down in lap 264. Drivers Taylor Hagler, Dakota Dickerson, and Jacob Abel were in that car. Good run for the drivers of that team. And Jacob Abel is 20 years old. He's got a long career ahead. It will be interesting to see what comes next in his time as a sports car driver. Now, unfortunately, for fourth and fifth in the class, they were not classified as they were out of the race. Completing 144 laps was the number 20 Wright Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3R, Jan Halen, Fred Pordad, and Max Root. They were involved in an incident, I believe. And, of course, the number 33 car, Windward Racing Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo, with drivers Philip Ellis, Russell Ward, and Marvin Dienst, were last place overall. Or no, they were not last place. Whoops. But the other cars in the Silver Cup were no longer classified. So there's that. It's just how the racing works, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Pro-Am class. Usually you see them further down the results. Winning the Pro-Am class, finishing 10th overall, completing 261 laps. In fact, the gap was 2 seconds. Number 75, Sun Energy One Racing Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo, with the owner-driver Kenny Habel, as well as Martin Conrad from Austria and Mikhail Grenier from Canada, taking the class win in Pro-Am. Second in Pro-Am was the number 34 GMG Racing Porsche 911 GT3R. James Sofronis, Dennis Olsen, and Kyle Washington were the drivers for that car, completing 261 laps. Third place in the class was 13th overall in the leaderboard, number 10 TR3 Racing, Lamborghini Huracan GT3, with John McGrew, Giacomo Altoy, and Bill Sweedler. That was your class podium. Now, fourth place in the class was the number 63 DXDT Racing. They had a lot of damaged cars, unfortunately, at the end of this one. DXDT Racing, Mercedes AMG GT3, David Askew, Ryan Dalziel, Scott Smithson, and fifth place in the class was a car that had a lot of controversy at the beginning of the race with missed calls, but missed calls that were supposed to go against their drivers. But I guess this one, they stuck it out to finish fifth in class. Number 70, Inception Racing, McLaren 720 SGT3, Brendan Irbe, Kevin Matson, and Ollie McElroy. And I'd say that Brendan Irbe, I don't have anything against him, but I think you got to keep your car on track a little more. I'll just say that. Now, the AM class had only one entry, so the winner of the AM class was 16th overall, the number 61. AF Corsa, Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, complete 254 laps. The drivers for that car were Conrad Grunwald, Jean-Claude Sada, and Mark Vom. Now let's talk about GT4s. We had GT4s in this race because it was part of, I think, it's GT4 America or something, that championship. The veterans got done. BMW owned this class, winning the GT4 class, completing 247 laps. 3 cars finished on the class leading lap. 247 laps. Bimmer World Racing BMW M4 GT4 number 36 with Bill Oberlin, 53 years old, still strong. Chandler Hull and James Clay. That's a classic lineup right there. Bill Oberlin driving any BMW that is almost equivalent to a race win. Second place overall, or not overall, but in the GT4 class, number 119, Stephen Cameron Racing BMW M4 GT4 of Tom Dyer, Sean Quinlan, and Guy Cosmo. Third place was a good comeback after a struggling race. This team actually unlapped themselves. Number 54, Black Swan Racing, Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport with brothers Joran and Sebastian Bleekemolen and the owner driver Tim Pappas. Great to see them back in competition. Fourth place, so outside of the podium for the class, was the number 82 Bimmer World BMW M4 GT4. We had James Walker, Nick Galante, and Devin Jones. And then fifth place in the class was the number 66, the Racers Group GT Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport. Andy Lally, Spencer Pompelli, and Derek DeBoer. Derek DeBoer were the cars in that class. A lot of veterans in the GT4 class this year, but it seemed like one side and one side. Bill Oberlin took the lead. It was like no contest. But yeah, these guys, all the IGTC guys, have one more month to prepare for the third and final race of the year, which is the 9 hours to Kyalami in South Africa for the third and final round. Of course, we're still far from knowing who's entered in that race. But yeah, a very interesting race for sure yesterday in Indy.
Oh, Joseph, I just saw your favorite NHL team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, are losing 1-0 after the first period. They're 1-0 behind the Rangers, but while the Flyers are after the first period are leading 3-0 against the Kraken at a home game at the Flyers.
Having trouble releasing the Kraken.
Well, other than talk about hockey, it's not World Hockey Media. That doesn't exist yet. Maybe in the future, but not right now. But yeah, it was interesting that. And also, I want to just briefly mention that in Super Formula, just want to briefly mention that the season finishes not this weekend, next weekend at the 31st at Suzuka, but the championship was Tomoki Nojiri for Team Mugen sealed the title. He had a 35.5 points ahead of second place, so he already locks up the title, which he's been fast all year, so he locks up the title a race early for that. But the team's championship is only 2.5 points between Carnex, Team Empel, and Team Mugen so it's close in the team, but the drivers' championship, he's already sealed. Yeah, while Super Formula Lights, the feeder series to Super Formula, that title finished the other day, and Tepe Natori won the championship over Giuliano Alesi by 6 points. 6 points, and third place was Ren Sato, 17 back then. Yeah, the top three were separated by 17, but then when you get back here, 52 points. Atsushi Miyake, 52 back, and then Hibiki Tiara finished fifth, 67.5 points behind. So that championship finished, and yeah, that was in Japan, the Super Formula Championship, which is competitive. Ooh.
Very competitive, and a lot of the F1 teams keep their eyes out in that series. It's like the Toyota Racing Series in
New Zealand. And
also
also
the Grand Prix itself.
Yeah, so that championship for Super Formula Lights is over. Super Formula has one more race, but the championship is locked up. which is good for Tomoki Nojiri. He's just been fast with wins
Is he
and
under
pole.
contract with the F1 constructor or anything? Junior driver or something?
He's driving for Team Mugen, which has Red Bull is a part of the team.
That's probably where he might go.
But still, he's like, there's so many drivers, like even older drivers like Kazuki Nakajima.
The Super Formula Series, formerly known as Formula Nippon, was actually known best for having the veteran drivers come back into racing with the series.
Like you got so many Kamui Kobayashi, Kenta Yamashita, Nakoi Yamamoto, who's last year's champion. Like you have so many names in that series that are veterans. But
all right, let's bring it on to the upcoming races we have this weekend. Of course, we have the NASCAR Cup Series, Kansas, for both Cup and Xfinity, the final Speedway race of the year, final 400-mile race of the Cup Series. We have the second of 3 races in both series in the round of 8. Kansas for 400 miles. The Cup Series, 300 miles for the Xfinity Series at Kansas. Race 2 or 3 in the round of 8 for Cup and Xfinity. Formula One makes the beginning of their final 6 races. No, the final 6 races of the Formula One World Championship this year. We kind of break it down into 2 categories. We have the American Tour, 3 races, 2 races in North America, and then of course in Brazil. You have the U.S., the United States Grand Prix, the Mexican Grand Prix, and then the Brazilian Grand Prix. And over to the Middle East, we have 3 races there.
Qatar Grand
Prix, first ever running. Saudi Arabia Grand Prix.
And then the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
That's the year.
And I just saw something. Do you want to know what's interesting about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix? They said they need that the drivers have to wear professional clothing.
Let me just be clear.
But
if the campaign is We Race as One, and this is what's going to be included, then I don't know. There's a way to define that as I'm not going to go there. Let's just talk about racing.
But still, they don't want like Lewis's clothing. It's just clothing.
I'm not. I try my best. Luckily, it's not race week yet, but I'm just gonna.
Well, the track's not.
We're gonna talk about what's happening in the United States Grand Prix because I feel like. I don't know. I mean, Formula E's race.
I was just about to say Saudi Arabia. The track's not even done yet. They still have not completed the track.
They're not completed the track yet.
No,
how much money is being put into that track? Millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, and the race is at the beginning of December. I'm like, you gotta finish the track before they can race. I don't know.
We raced in Baku during some pretty uneasy times in Azerbaijan this year.
Yeah, but
the Formula E guys had trouble getting out of Diriyah earlier this year.
Yep.
I don't know. Let's just say that this Formula One World Championship is going to be interesting. We're going to talk more about F1 later in this podcast. We do have some sports car action. The final European Le Mans Series race of the season. 4 hours reporting out around 6 of 6 championships all locked up. Team WRT for the overall title, but there's still other classes that need to be settled. We will bring you details on that.
Yep.
Let's continue on with NASCAR. So Kansas Speedway this weekend, of course, they've raced at Kansas earlier this year.
Yep.
The Cup Series. Let's look at the history of this race. This year we had Kyle Busch go to victory lane. Joey Logano won it last year. Logano was able to punch a ticket into the championship forward when he won it last year.
Yep.
First race was 20 years ago.
2001.
Jeff Gordon won the inaugural race in 2001, but no drivers ever exceeded 3 wins. A lot of drivers have won 3 times. Let's look at this list. 3 times for Jeff Gordon, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano. These drivers have 2 wins: Greg Biffle, Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, Brad Keselowski, Tony Stewart, and Martin Truex Jr. There's a lot of drivers that have great pasts at this track. And let's look at the teams in the fall race specifically. Hemric Motorsports, 5 times they've won the fall race, more than any other team at Kansas Speedway. Roush Fenway Racing and Team Penske share 4 wins each, including last year for Team Penske. Stewart Haas Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing share 2 wins each in the fall race at Kansas. Then we go to the manufacturer wins in the fall. Best being a Chevy 10 times they've won, Ford 7 times, Toyota won twice, Dodge won once. Looking at the stats, I think it's a tough situation. A lot of teams seem to be equally good, as well as the drivers at Kansas Speedway. And as far as the round of 8 is concerned, I mean, there's no guarantees that you can have your day made or broken. It's tough. Where do you see this going, Justin?
Okay. Okay, I actually got my pick. This driver, he's run a total of 13 races at Kansas in his career. In 13 starts, he has 0 wins, 3 top 5, 6 top 10s, 8 top 20s, 171 laps left. He has a pole here. Average start of 10.5. His best finish is 3rd. Worst finish, 37. His average finish is 15.77. He is a championship driver in the championship. This driver drives a Ford, driving the number 12 for Team Penske. Ryan Blaney is going to win at Kansas. Punch his ticket to the championship 4.
Well, I feel like Brian Blaney might be a great pick, but I'm looking at a driver who has fought from the back many times to win, whether it's a shockingly way or not, to win in this round to get into the championship, to throw a wrench in front of the expectations. He did this a few years ago. He won the championship. I mean, he didn't win it at Kansas, though, but he knows exactly how to get it done.
I know who you're talking about.
Joey Logano will win at Kansas.
Okay.
I knew it. I just see it.
Okay, that's a good pick. He is good here at Kansas. It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a lot like what we saw at Martinsville, where you see someone in a pretty much a must-win situation almost. Go out there and just give it all, tear up the competition, win it, and take no prisoners in the process. That's something Logano's going to do. Well, at least for the Larson fans, they don't have to worry too much. You always want to stay up to par. All right, let's talk the Xfinity Series here at Kansas Speedway. They run for 300 miles this weekend in the Midwest. Well, let's look at the history of this race. As, of course, this is the second of 3 races in the round of 8 and round 31 of the 33 race season. Brandon Jones and Chase Briscoe won the events from last year. Jeff Green, who was competing for a championship in 2001, won the first race there 20 years ago. Who has the most wins? Well, listen to these names. Kyle Busch 4 times, Joey Logano 2 times, Brandon Jones, who is competing for this, who needs a good race. He won this race twice, back to back. Joe Gibbs Racing, most wins by a team, 10 times for Joe Gibbs Racing. Roush Fenway Racing won twice. As for manufacturer wins, Toyota, all those wins were with Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota. Toyota's 10 wins there. They have a great record at this track. Chevrolet and Ford share 4 wins. Dodge had 2 wins in their time, and Pontiac had 1 in their time. I think David Green's win there in 2003 was the last ever victory for Pontiac in the series.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, that is true. Yep. My mind has like an encyclopedia of its own. Okay. Xfinity Series, Kansas, 300 miles. What do you got for predictions?
Okay, I'm looking at this guy's stats because I always look at stats because I'm not the only one that likes stats. But what if racing, he really likes stats other than talking about that? Okay, my pick, this driver in 6 starts, he has three top fives, four top tens, two top fives, four top tens, an average start of 6.7, average finish of 11th. He's led a total of 20 laps here. This driver, he has 2 victories here. He's looking for number 3. Driver of the number 19, Brandon Jones, is going to win again at Kansas for his 3rd time at this track and punch his ticket to the Final Four. He's just been so good at Kansas. I can't explain why. Nobody expected Brandon Jones to do that good at Kansas, but Brandon Jones, he knows Kansas really well.
Yeah, he finds his stride here. It seems like a good driver. And you know what? There's a lot of competition within him and Harrison Burton. I think Harrison Burton might be a good driver, but here's who I have to pick this win. He's great at intermediates. He's still getting that knock on the door to that first one. He does not want to break a record no one wants to break.
I know.
Daniel Hemric's going to get the win. This is it. This is it. I mean, this is it. He's no longer finishing second in this one. And just by looking at the points, that's pretty much what he has to do. It's only one position higher. And that's probably going to be his day. And you know what? I think the 54 team might take it easy. They might be playing in defense for him. If you think about it, it was the last week. Justin, hold on. Last week it was John Nemechek winning.
Yeah.
Daniel Hemric either trying to catch him or play defense for the 54 team in their own championship. And now I think we might see Ty Gibbs out there.
We don't
pay a favor to Daniel Hemric here.
Well, what happens
or Harrison Burton or Brandon Jones, depending on who's in front at the right time.
Well, what happens if Ty Gibbs just pulls away and wins instead?
That could probably happen as well. I mean, we know who Ty Gibbs is at this point.
Yeah, and Ty Gibbs, he's running the ARCA race right after for the championship, which is that Saturday after the Xfinity race, but it's going to be interesting for 3. Hopefully there's no crash. Like, we've recently had crashes on the first corner. Like
2018 is a great example. A lot of drivers were competing for this championship that needed a good race in the 2018 round. Guess what? Almost all the races ended in the first corner.
Yeah,
the first 2 corners. It was crazy to think about. And ironically, last week's winner won that race, Hunter Nemechek. In fact, that's the last win for Chip Ganassi Racing's Xfinity program.
And the guy that Nemechek beat was Hemric in the 21 car at RCR, and then Nemechek's second win, he won over Daniel Hemric again.
Right.
But yeah, we got Formula One. They're racing at Circuit of the Americas. Yeah, Circuit of the Americas.
Welcome back to the United States, and this is awesome because, of course, last year they had no trips across the Atlantic.
Nope.
In Formula One, and now we get to finally enjoy that.
Yeah.
We get to host a Grand Prix again. The United States Grand Prix is back. Let's look at the history of this race. This has been the site of a lot of fatalities, a lot of controversies. Different tracks being experimented, and some of the dominance of drivers.
Yep.
Last race, though, it was Valtteri Bottas. In fact, finished drivers
Mercedes.
Last 2 races. Kimi Räikkönen in 2018.
Yep.
Bruce McLaren won the inaugural U.S. Grand Prix 1959.
That was at
Sebring.
I know what that was. I remember who was it? There was somebody, his teammate, who won whoever won the 59 championship. I forget who the driver was.
I should know this.
He was Bruce's teammate. He let Bruce by because his car died before the line. He pushed his car to win the title.
How do I not know this? It's on the tip of my tongue. Who was it?
Oh, I found it. Jack Brabham. Oh my God.
I was about to say Brabham.
Yeah. Jack Brabham was the teammate. Jack Brabham and Bruce McLaren were teammates. They were teammates that year. And
funny enough,
I remember that because I remember watching a video talking about for Cooper. They were driving for Cooper team, and Jack's won his first championship.
Was on the last car on the lead lap, so he was going to be classified.
Yeah, but his car died, so he to make sure he let his teammate by because he was holding his teammate up. He let Bruce by to get his first Formula One victory.
It's happened at Sebring, Florida. In fact, the next Grand Prix to be held in the state of Florida, first since '59, is going to be next year in Miami.
Yeah, but we've had good tracks for the U.S. Grand Prix. Right. We've also had
Watkins
bad.
Glen. Remember Riverside in '60. We had for 1 year. Then Watkins Glen was a fixture for a long time until 1980, and that track was controversial too. We saw a lot of drivers losing their lives in several corners that have actually affected some of the track layouts to change, which I think the straw that broke the camel's back was in the early '90s when Tommy Kennel had that career-altering crash. JD McDuffie lost his life. They put a chicane there. For the carousel.
We had good tracks, Long Beach, stuff like that, but we also
Phoenix. Remember, they were on our Grand Prix. We had Phoenix in 89, 90, 91, and then after 2000, we had, starting 2000, we had Indianapolis. It looked like a great success because the Brickyard 400, NASCAR's Brickyard 400, that was successful at its time and didn't have problems even before F1 left. But 2005 was the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah, but there was also other tracks that didn't do too well. Detroit did not do well. We're talking about the U.S. Grand Prix in particular.
Yeah, Dallas and Detroit actually held the U.S. Grand Prix.
Detroit now holds an IndyCar race. Long Beach morphed into an IndyCar race.
Yeah, but we also had a Little Caesars Palace. You know the Caesars Palace? That race was just bad because do you want to know where the race was actually held? It was held in a parking lot, which is
didn't Trans Am have a few races there too?
Yeah, but the worst part was the F1 finale. Who at F1's yep, we're going to put that as the finale. And but now we're at COTA. The only
Circuit of the Americas was built specifically to host an F1 Grand Prix as a fixture for the USGP calendar.
Yeah.
And I think this track I've learned to love it. A lot of people like myself, I was skeptical about Circuit of the Americas because it looked a lot like some of the other Tilke design tracks.
Yeah.
I'd say Abu Dhabi, Turkey,
Yeah.
India, Korea, those Grand Prix tracks that had a lot of the same designs.
Yeah.
Russia.
Yeah. But
this was, I think, I mean, it has different layouts. I think it's a good track. Let's look at the history of the wins. Why do we say a lot of the best drivers in F1 win this race? Because they have. Lewis Hamilton has the most wins at 6. Michael Schumacher with 5. Then with these 3 wins, we have Graham Hill, Jim Clark, then Jackie Stewart, James Hunt, Carlos Reutemann, Ayrton Senna, 2-time winners. Most wins by a constructor. Ferrari, 10 wins. I don't think they're winning 11. Lotus, McLaren, 8. Mercedes with 5. BRM, 3. And Tyrrell, 2. You see the stats, the numbers, and of course, we didn't have a race last year. Let's not forget that at all. No matter how familiar these drivers and teams are with Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, we still didn't have a race last year. And it's required 2 years of refreshing. Let's look at the championship standings for a minute. I want to make some predictions. Who's going to come out of America with the championship lead, the world championship lead? It's going to be, first of all, who's going to win the race?
I have double 4. Lewis Hamilton, the double 4. 44. Well, Lewis is just good here. It's he's in a Merc. He's he doesn't need to take penalties. Remember, he took that penalty last week, so he can start on pole here and just say, goodbye, field. It's my best track. You just go try to fight for second while I'm pulling away. It's just, I feel like he's just so good there. The Merc has been better recently. Remember, Valtteri's dominant win at Turkey that and
in 2019.
Yeah,
as if he was not part of the competition, he certainly will be.
Yeah, and Mercedes, they're good at this track. This is one of Merck's best tracks. And COTA's a good, interesting racetrack, and hopefully Vettel doesn't do a tricycle. Remember,
I want him to get points.
Well,
I would be happy if Vettel could get some points.
But remember that. Well, remember at Turkey when it was not even Aston Martin that made the mistake. Vettel wanted to go on on slicks, he said on the radio, and he asked for mediums. It's like,
tastes like milk.
like the slick tires were not working, but remember when he was acting like a tricycle early on with a suspension failure in his Ferrari in 2019 there? It was kind of, but other than talking about Ferrari being Ferrari, that at least their car's better than last year.
Enough to get third.
But,
I look at McLaren before I look at Ferrari.
Well, Ferrari could get a podium this race, possibly.
Maybe.
Got Leclerc and Sainz if Red Bull has mistakes, because it's Red Bull. But other than
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say that, okay, if we look at France for a minute, I want to go back to Le Castellet for a minute here. Everyone say this is Hamilton's race. He's going to walk away with the pole, the fastest lap of the win, right? Max Verstappen did everything that Lewis Hamilton was expected to do and won that Grand Prix with the fastest lap and the pole. So that's where it brings me to this point here, is that Max Verstappen's going to repeat this. Remember, France didn't have a race last year.
No, but
we had the French Grand Prix last year. We had it this year, and last year everybody expected to see what 2019 had. And I think the same is going to happen.
But
of course not because he won. He didn't win last time at Circuit of Americas, but
the thing is, it's like Red Bull has not been that good at this recently. The last few weeks, it's been Mercedes has had a bit more power in their car and dominating races. Not
Who
like
won the 2013 U.S. Grand Prix at COTA.
It was Vettel, but then the next year,
what did he do? I know he won like 10 races in a row or something, but he still
but
drove
the
for
thing
Red Bull, went on to win the championship. I'm just saying that.
But
Max is going to have to do something well here.
Yeah, but like talk about Vettel. The next year, you had people that he's going to get his 5th title. He was beaten by Daniel Ricciardo in his first season.
And not to mention Mercedes were on another planet.
Just
it took them about 7 years to be caught by another constructor.
But still, Mercedes is pulling away in constructors right now. I think
they should be in a good position.
But I think like Lewis and Valtteri, like Mercedes,
they'll be in good spots for Mercedes.
Yeah, like the Mercedes guys know what to do at COTA. Like it's been like
Marquez, Mark Marquez, MotoGP. He picked up exactly where he left off. That's why he's the winningest at that circuit for.
Yeah, it's like there's so many things like people say about these things, like these stats. Like it's the same thing with Mercedes has been good at COTA recently. It's like Russia. Mercedes is still the only team to win at Russia.
Let's hold our horses for a minute, because since 2014, it was Hamilton's first win in Mercedes at the circuit. It wasn't. They hadn't been perfect. If you look at it, 2018, Kimi Räikkönen and Ferrari won that Grand Prix.
Yeah,
let's just say everyone thought that Kimi was not going to get that win for Ferrari in a second tenure with them. It happened at that event.
Yeah, but that was Ferrari back then. Now Ferrari is not going to be doing that.
Right, but we still have a lot of constructors that are up to that kind of potential, though.
Yeah, but
McLaren, we want to look away from McLaren now.
Yeah, but I feel like it's still going to be Mercedes. It's just their car has been better at these tracks. It's just their aero's better.
Justin, how far is George going to go in quali?
I feel like he can. I know he's going to get by first. He's going to get
through first, of course. Does he get to Q3?
He has a shot at it. Like I think Q2 he can get. I think he'll get by Q1 because George remember his nickname is Mr. Saturday for a reason. Q2, I feel like he's going to reach Q2. Because, like, Q1, like, he's just so good in that car. And George is probably going to be happy next year in the Merc, which George in a Merc will be better than him in a Williams. But, sorry, Williams. Sorry for bagging on Williams. But at least they're better than Haase, which the American team is probably not going to get points at home. But Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin, the car acting so bad, I don't know how slow it's going to be on the straights.
I don't know. I mean, at least we got to see Mick Schumacher enjoy a day at a NASCAR event.
Oh yeah, he was at on the Stewart Haas pit
Yeah,
clock.
ironically, they were at Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
In Fort Worth.
Yep. And Coda's gonna. Yeah, that's gonna be.
Was at a football match.
Okay.
Mexico.
Interesting. But other than, but
of course, Ricardo could be found at a cowboy shop.
but I guess that remember the bet remember the bet between Zach Brown and Daniel Ricciardo if Daniel got a podium. Remember that Dale Earnhardt car? I guess that he has an actual like full size he bought a Dale Earnhardt car.
He's gonna test drive. Monte Carlo.
Yeah, at Coda, which would be interesting. The number 3,
right?
And that's one reason.
You guys forgot the NASCAR Cup Series had a race there this year, their inaugural Grand Prix of Texas.
Yeah, and also people forget that Daniel Ricciardo, other than his house address having number 3, he also picked it because he watched NASCAR, the Black 3 of Dale Earnhardt. That's why he picked 3 when in 2014 you can choose your personal number. That's why Ricciardo drives the 3, which a lot of people do like the number 3.
People, I wasn't there as a fan when Dale passed when it happened, but I'm sure a lot of others had, especially these drivers because they were younger when it happened.
Yeah,
but they were aware of the situation. But yeah, F1 back on the west of the Atlantic Ocean, and we got, of course, Mexico's Grand Prix, and then we go south. We go South America for Brazil before going back to the Middle East for the final 3 races of the year. It's going to be a very tough fight to this World Championship. So come down to the wire.
Yep.
Do not miss the rest of the F1 calendar.
Nope.
Don't miss any session. We're going to talk endurance racing first, and then we're going to go back and discuss some 2 other championships that will be settled this weekend as well. So let's talk about the European Le Mans Series. There's one more race to go. The championship for the overall is clinched, but there's still other classes to be done, other positions in the standings to be decided. The 4 Hours of Portimao is back, and this race will definitely be an interesting one to watch. It'll be Sunday morning for us.
Yep.
European Le Mans Series, 6 races this year. It comes down to the end. The 4 Hours of Portimao in the Algarve circuit. Let's see the history of this race. Of course, last year's winners were G-Drive Racing Orso 1 with Roman Rusinov, Mikkel Jensen, and Nick De Vries. First race was held in 2009, an all-French lineup with Jean-Christophe Bouillon and Christophe Sinot in Pescarolo Sport. Remember that Pescarolo 01 Evo back in 2009? That was a beautiful car. And, of course, we saw another all-French lineup win it again with Orica and Matt Mutz, Peugeot 908 HJ FAP. That was a beautiful diesel-made car that won Le Mans in 2009. The drivers were Olivier Panis, Stefan Saras, and Nicolas Lapierre. Then from 2011 to 2016, there were no races in Portimao, no endurance races there of any ACO event until 2017 when we saw Graf's Orca 07 with James Allen, Richard Bradley, and Columbia's Gustavo Yakiman win that race. Then, of course, Felipe Albuquerque, Philip Hansen won in 2018, the United Autosports, and they were actually in the Leger JSP 8217. 2019, we had IDEX Sport, Orca 07, Paulo Chatin, Paul Frog, and Diego Rojas. Seems like they're very dynamic lineups in these events. I'm just looking through all the races. Of course, I mentioned last year. I got the entry list here. Need to pull that up. All right, so I see it. All right, there's the entry list. It may or may not be updated, but it's here. Let's see who can go for this overall win. Justin, who do you got? Who's going to win this race overall?
I have the number 22, United Autosports, Orca 07, driven by Phil Hansen, Jonathan Aberdeen, and Tom Gamble.
Sounds like a good pick.
I think I know who you're picking.
I'm going with my favorite team. Team WRT number 41.
Yeah,
Argo 7 with Robert Kubica, Louis Delchaz, and Yefeye, the champions. So we picked pros. Now, who could get the Pro-Am?
I have my pick for Pro-Am. I have the number 25 G-Drive Racing RS01 Gibson, driven by John Fall, Roy Andrade, and Gustavo Menez.
All right. For Pro-Am, since we didn't pick Pro-Am for the overall win, I'm going to take the number 37 Cool Racing Orca 7 Gibson, Alexandre Glogny, Nikolai Lapierre, and Charles Milsey. They've done great things this year in prototypes. All right, so we're back into this. Okay, this was October 12th. All right, not too outdated. LMP3 class. Every single race, the LMP3 class has finished ahead overall of the GTE class winner. That's very impressive, by the way. But again, most of these drivers have better licenses than what we've seen in North America this year with them. Who's going to take the LMP3 class win?
I got my pick is the number 6 Nielsen Racing Ligier JSP 320 Nissan, driven by Nicholas Adcock, Austin McCusker, and Max Cobalt.
Sounds like an interesting lineup. My pick for the LMP3 class is going to be number 19, Cool Racing Ligier PS320 Nissan. Nikolai Malini, Matthew Bell, Nicholas Cruton. They've done great things before together in this category. Now we have 10 LMGTEs. And by the way, it was announced, speaking of the status of that class, they will run LMGTEs until the end of 2023. However, IMSA will not. They'll basically switch with the WEC and Le Mans to all GT3s starting 2024. So we still get to see them next year, these kinds of cars. Just depends on who's showing up. But we got 10. That's not a bad entry list for GTEs. I see here.
I got
all Ferraris except for 2 Porsches
and an
Aston. All right, let's see.
I got my pick. Okay. My pick is the number 77 Proton Competition Porsche, driven by Christian Reed, Cooper McNeil, and Gian Maria Bruni. Experience. I'm picking experience in that lineup.
All right, I'm looking at here. Yeah, of course.
They have 2 entries, the 61 and 88.
I'm gonna take the number 88 AF Corsa Ferrari 488 GTE Evo with Francois Parado, 50-year-old Emmanuel Collard, and Alessio Rovera.
Okay.
Seems like Ferrari GT programs are doing very well this year, and it will continue.
Yep.
Okay. Let's talk championships, though. We do have championships that are going to be set. Of course, the overall LMP2 championship is all set and done. But positions from 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th are very likely to be able to switch around depending on the complexity of the race. Let's talk LMP3. We got 6 points. No, 7 point. No, wait. Minus 5 points, I mean. I can't even count. Between the number 19 Cool Racing, the JJ SP320, which, of course, I picked them to win the class in the race, and the number 4 DKR Engineering, this Luxembourg team that's very famous for their Corvettes that were filed in the old FIA GT1 championship. They are so good. They won. Okay, let's talk about the 19 first. All podiums, first or second, except for the fourth at Monza. DKR, almost a perfect season getting poles if it weren't for the first race. Other than the first two races, win, win, and win. They won more than they've actually ran this year. Being in first place is something that they just, that it's their drug. They get to being first place. And you know what? The Ford team's drivers, let's not forget about the drivers, of course. When we talk about Jean-Philippe Desraux, he did a lot of the helping, but Lawrence Hoare and Matthew DeBarbat, they're going to need a lot of credit too.
Yeah.
Sticking it out and making this work. Some of the races that they ran were only with 2 drivers. Most of the teams run 3 drivers in these European Le Mans Series events. So it's a very interesting duo. But way back down in third, they're not able to get the championship. It's the number 2 United Autosports Ligier, JS3 P320. All the rest of the Ligiers, number 13 Inter Europol competition. They were now classified in 2 out of the last 3 races, and the number 8 Graf Racing Ligier, which are still fighting hard to get another podium. With that said, let's move down to the LMGT Championship. They barely missed out on clinching the number 80 Iron Lynx Ferrari 488 GTE Evo. Car number 80, of course, being driven by Rino Mastronardi, Miguel Molina, and Matteo Cressani. They pretty much have it all but clinched. A perfect podium year. First, third, first, second, second. And same with the number 88 AF Course Ferrari, which they are, 20 points behind. 81 points. Now, 88 team, I think they have what it takes to win. Of course, the 88 AF Corsa Ferrari with François Parado, Emmanuel Claret, Alessio Rivera. They missed the first race, but that didn't stop them from being able to win this championship. First, third, first. A lot of points. But then, of course, third on back cannot get to the championship. Number 55, Spirit of Race Ferrari, which outside of their non-classification race, they got all podiums and a win at Monza. Then fourth place, the number 77 Proton WeatherTech Racing Porsche. Still fighting to get a podium like they did in the opening round. And then the rest are fighting for their own positions. So the championships in the other classes are far from clinch. I think GTE is going to be a lot far-fetched. But LMP3 is going to be very competitive going into the final race. Speaking of championships, let's go back to Kansas Speedway for a minute and talk about ARCA. There is a championship on the line between 2 Toyota factory drivers representing 2 different teams.
Yeah.
And the storylines are just incredible. Corey Heim on the super speedways, Ty Gibbs virtually everywhere, and of course his storybook Xfinity Series introduction with a win at Daytona. Kansas for 100 miles will decide this year's champion. It's down to 26 points. It's far-fetched. Do we have an entry list for this race?
No, not yet. It's usually released on Tuesdays. So tomorrow it's going to be released, but we expect a good-sized field for Kansas.
It's Cup weekend, so...
Yeah, and also... yeah. I actually saw Dean Thompson, who's currently running ARCA West. He's actually going to make his ARCA Main Series debut. Like, not debut, but he ran in the combined race at
that would
Phoenix.
actually be a second start, but
yeah, but first it's
in
just
a different team because he's not in the combo race.
Yeah, it's his, yeah, and he'll also run a truck race. Dean Thompson will run a truck
he's
race.
running the last 2 races of the year.
Yeah,
might need something for next year.
Yeah, which Dean Thompson, he's been solid in the West Series. He did miss a race because of COVID, so Ryan Partridge replaced him at one of the rounds. But
Dean Thompson, is he one of the 7 drivers that are able to get the championship?
No, he missed a race, so he is more behind in the points because of his COVID protocol. So he had to miss.
I want to see that again. I always forget. Missing your race doesn't mean you're out.
But he's really more behind. I think he's.
All right, let's see. Dean Thompson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. He actually missed 2 races.
Yeah, COVID
I forgot
protocols.
he missed the second race.
Yeah.
That's insane.
But it's gonna be interesting. ARCA Saturday night.
I think who's gonna win this championship? Is it easy to say?
I say Ty Gibbs. He's just so good, and remember last time we came here, Ty Gibbs dominated Kansas in that.
But it was Corey Heim who won it, didn't it?
No, Ty Gibbs won it.
Ty Gibbs. I think about another race.
Corey Heim won Daytona, Talladega, Pocono.
You want all the big tracks.
Yeah, but Ty Gibbs won Kansas. He dominated at Kansas. I
think Gibbs is going to win the race and the championship.
Me too. It's just Ty Gibbs.
Xfinity next year.
Like Ty Gibbs, he's just so good. People say, "Oh, it's a cup car." It's not a cup car. It's
not a cup car.
No.
Ty Gibbs, forget the last name for a second. This is like Kyle Larson, or Joey Logano's stuff. I mean, this is incredible. This is some of the best driving I've ever seen.
Ty Gibbs won the 4th race of the season was Kansas. Do you know how dominant Ty Gibbs was? He led all 100 laps at Kansas last time.
Incredible. And he did that more than once this year.
Yeah, he started on pole at every lap. He's just so good. It's hard to get Ty Gibbs. Trying to beat Ty Gibbs is hard enough. And I feel like he's going to get another win.
Corey Heim did a great job holding him off for as long as he could.
Yeah, he finished 3rd last time, but he's dropped in points recently.
It's all but over now. 26 points, and depending on the entries, it depends on how harder it could be to save anything that's to be saved.
It's actually 34 points, 997 to 963. So that's 34 points. It's a bit big.
Oh, 34 points. I don't know. I said 26 points. Sorry about the description.
But then Nick Sanchez, he'll get 3rd. Tad Moffat's not in the race because JP Bergeron's in the 46. That he'd announced
right. It came out of the final too.
Yeah.
Long before those guys pulled out. It's gonna be fun. There's another championship I want to mention too, because we forgot to discuss this as well. The W Series.
Yeah.
The Americas, 2 races, a championship, and it looks like 3 drivers are able to get it, but it looks like it's down to the 2 British drivers that have just been absolutely phenomenal this year. Defending champion Jamie Chadwick, who is 23.
I thought you were
from Somerset. Yeah, 23. And Alice Powell from Oxford, age 28, a veteran in single seaters. Jamie Chadwick came from GT racing, and both worlds collide, and there'll be one champion. They're literally tied, 109 points for this. It's going to be close.
I thought you were about to say Jamie Wynn Cup.
I almost, say Jamie Wynn Cup a little bit later. We're not there yet. It's 2 weeks. Supercars.
Yeah, but
Emma Kimi Leinen's still able to get the championship, 75 points, but she has to have a really good race 1 at Austin.
Yeah,
for any of that, it's still far fetched.
Yeah, because Circuit of the Americas, instead of having just 1 race, they were initially it was supposed to be Circuit of the Americas. Then after Circuit of the Americas, they were supposed to race at the next week. But they decided to do 2 races at the same track. So yeah. Wait,
all right. Let's make our championship prediction. Who is it going to be? Who's winning this year?
This year, I have Alice Powell this year. Wow. She's been so good recently. Don't count her out. It's going to be close.
Listen to this. All but 2 races, podiums. Win from pole, 8th. Win from pole, 2nd. 4th. Win with the fastest lap. No, they don't give points over pole and fastest lap in any of that. Just from where he finished. Jamie Chadwick, this is incredible. All but one race, podiums. 6, first from pole, fastest lap. Win, first from pole, fastest lap. Second from pole, and second. That all equates to 109 points. I think that Jamie Chadwick knows what to do more in these situations than Alice Powell. So she's going to win her second consecutive W Series championship.
Okay. I was just looking.
We'll see where it goes. It's going to be great. Don't miss the W Series.
Yeah, I was looking at the schedule layout. Practice is Friday at 11:20 a.m. Eastern. Quali is at 5:30 Eastern. Race 1 is Saturday at 6:25 Eastern. And then for race 2, which is the next day, they have a quali. Quali for race 2 is on Saturday afternoon at 12:10 Eastern. Race 2, the final event, is Sunday, I meant. Sunday at 12:05 Eastern is the finale event. Round 8 of 8. So it's going to be interesting. W Series, COTA. It's going to be interesting.
Can't wait to see it. All right, I think this brings up, and that's going to take us to what I was going to want. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this weekend. A lot of YouTubers have put out videos about Dan Wheldon, about the life and the death of Dan Wheldon and the career that he's had. And let's go ahead and take a look back at Dan Wheldon, because he was just an incredible driver that was taken from us too soon and had a great career. And I was not much into IndyCar. I was not too into IndyCar, like as a fan myself back when I was a kid. IndyCar wasn't as big as much of a passion to me as NASCAR was.
Yeah.
But I would manage to watch the Indy 500 every year and watch several of the races that I came across. And luckily it happened just when the split was coming to an end, so I didn't have to worry about the political nonsense. But after 2008, of course, that was taken off the table, luckily. But yeah, Dan Wheldon was a very interesting personality, because I never really became a fan of IndyCar drivers when I was a kid, but I felt like there was some kind of connection between me and Dan Wheldon when I was a fan around the end of the 2000s, start of the 2010s. And here's why. I was a young kid. I had a lot of struggles in school. Kids bullied me. I was very not good with the social skills, and just teachers. A lot of teachers had vicious things they said about me, and just especially going into middle school, it was very bad. Like 2010 to 2011, that was first year of middle school. And Dan Wheldon's career, like me, was faced with adversity.
Yeah.
He went from being a champion in the prime of his career in the mid 2000s to thrown in just bad race cars that just could not take him anywhere. He outperformed in these teams, or in this team of Panther Racing in 2009, 2010. Indy almost got them to win 2 years, finished second in both the events.
Yeah.
And was left without a ride in 2011. I mean, he went from being a champion in the series, one of the best drivers on the grid, to being without a ride. I mean, that's like a tale of two careers. And going into 2011, I was just sucked, because I remember watching the 2011 season start. I'm like, what good is this? There's no Dan Wheldon. It's hard to watch race without Dan Wheldon. So I'm like, okay, wait for May 2011 to come around, because I know that how he performed at Indy in the two races with Panther Racing, where he finished second in both events, in 2009 and 2010. I remember being gutted when he didn't win that 500, falling short to Dario Franchitti. But in 2011, I knew that someone would sign Dan. Someone would need Dan Walden. So Brian Herta, his former teammate at Andretti Green Racing, the year that he won the 8500 with, signed him for his own startup team with help from Kerr Bakajanian.
Yeah, the number 98. Yeah, he drove the 98 in that Indy 500 2011, which that race was interesting.
I remember a lot from that year's 500. I'll tell you what. There was it was the 100th anniversary of the 500, and not to mention the entry list was stacked.
Oh,
we had a huge entry list, and bump day was going to be an issue. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams go home.
Okay.
And I knew, okay, Dan's going to get through bump day or the process of qualifying because it changed a little bit. He got through with these. He outperformed the car, started in the second row, 6th place. I knew that was going to happen with Brian Herta, but I knew his car may not be the best in the race. And guess what happened? Guess what happened? He didn't have the best car, but he stayed.
No.
I knew the damn well way. I'm like, okay, race starts. He's going to lag back, just run the laps, do his thing. We had so many guys lead laps that day. There were tons of lap leaders.
Yeah.
Tons of guys. A lot of them had like single-digit number of laps when it counted.
Yeah, but not like
it really did come to the end.
Yeah, when J.R. Hildebrand. Oh my!
J.R. Hildebrand was hired by Panther Racing. Panther Racing, of course, had Dan Walden drive for them in the past 2 years before 2011, and I knew, like, oh man, Panther Racing's gonna win without Dan Walden. I'm like, but I'd be cool if J.R. Hildebrand wins. He's got the U.S. Army car. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
He's low on fuel, goes around the lap car. He's in the dirty air, comes off turn 4, makes the biggest rookie mistake of his life. Hits the outside wall. I'm like, oh my gosh, where's Dan? Where's Dan? And he passed J.R. Hildebrand just moments from the line, and I was the happiest kid on earth that day.
Yeah, because
led one lap. The only lap he needed to lead was the last one.
Yeah,
and he beat the team that changed the reputation of Dan Walden's IndyCar career for the worse. And it was like, to me, that was like one of the first cases of watching redemption take place, because I knew what happened. It was more than just a win. Not only, I mean, he won the Indy 500 for the second time, sure, but this was more of like a statement to all the teams that let him go, that the critics who said, your years are over, you're washed up, all kinds of garbage that was being put out in the press back then. And I always knew never to quit on Dan Walden. So when he had that opportunity to race again in the final 2 races of the 2011 season, I was very excited, because Sam Schmidt, Motorsports, signed him, Kentucky and Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And Kentucky was mediocre, finished 14th. And then Las Vegas came around, and he was pretty much given to this challenge where he'd win $5 million, holding it with a fan.
Yeah. I remember that. But do you know what's interesting about...
Go ahead.
You know, he drove the number 77 for the final 2 events. Do you know who drove the first 15 events in that car? Tagliani drove the 77.
You must hold any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, Alex Tagliani drove the first 15 races. And then Alex actually drove the final event in Brian Herta's 98 at Las Vegas. He drove the 98 car for Brian Herta Autosport. 98 that Dan Weldon won the Indy 500. Tagliani drove it at Las Vegas.
I would have to say that going into that race, the final race at Las Vegas, something didn't set right with me. I know the weekend, because I know what I did as a 12-year-old kid. I knew everything that I did at the time. My structure was very simple. Go to school, take the beatings from nonsense from stupid teachers that have no business teaching schools. And I'm going to say that even after 10 years because it's true. And, just peers just being cruel. And going home. The best thing about being a kid in that time was the gratification of getting out of that school. So when I left and got home, I turned on the TV. Speed Channel was still there. And I always had the TV running Speed Channel. So when I turned the TV back on, it would be on Speed Channel.
Yeah.
In the morning, we used to have Stacey David's Gears. I think it's on a different station now. He still has it going.
Yeah.
Kink's All Out. Remember that show?
Oh, yeah.
Telling Dave's fan on the Friday night. So I knew what my structure was like. And of course, the truck series races, all the practice qualifying were still for NASCAR on the station.
Oh my gosh.
So just like any other weekend, October 16th, I turned on the TV, ready to watch who's going to win this championship. Dario Franchitti going for another title.
Or Powers. Yeah, he was going for his first title then. He was second in points behind Franchitti heading in the
third year with Penske by then. Yes.
Yeah, and also the pole center of that race, people forget, Tony Kanaan and the number 82 entry for
AB Racing Technology.
Yep, he started on pole. Yeah, he qualified pole with the fast speed of 222.078 miles an hour.
Here is the first red flag that I saw in my eyes of this event. They split the practice sessions up. What free practice means anybody can go on. Why are you grouped? Shouldn't that be a little bit of warning saying, hey, there's too many cars? And 34 cars, I mean, that's more than the Indy 500. Now, mind you, Indianapolis Motor Speedway is 2.5 miles long, wide straightaways.
Yeah.
You have room. You're not going to be You're not going to go a blob of cars stuck together like this with multiple grooves. Everybody strings out. Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now, let's go back and look at the history of Las Vegas Motor Speedway for a minute here. Because Las Vegas Motor Speedway held IndyCar races before, back when they were in different sanctioning bodies. And of course, they had the street circuit, the dirt track in 54, and of course, the Grand Prix in 2007, which was Will Power's first win, ironically. But they went to Las Vegas Motor Speedway in 1996 and 1997, which was, of course, part of the second ever Indy Racing League. But remember, that was when the track was built. Las Vegas Motor Speedway was a flat 1.5-mile track. Indy cars can pull away in the flat 1.5 miles and be in their own safe bubble.
Holy cow! 6-0.
Grand slam for the Red Sox.
Wow. Okay.
Can't hold that grin back.
But other than I was
going to say that Las Vegas Motor Speedway, they had the track. It was fine, and let's look at the races though. The inaugural Las Vegas 550K, we had 28 cars. It was a crash fest, but still a lot of people in there. Licio Salazar from Chile won in 97. Sam Schmidt's only win in IndyCar was in 99. But then in 2004, 2005, they raced again under Champ Car's banner with 18 cars in the race, and it was fine. It was an okay race. We didn't have problems. The 2005 race was named for the hurricane relief.
Yeah.
Rita and Katrina relief efforts that struck most of the United States in 2005. But they never raced again. And here's my issue with this. And Randy Bernard, I think he was a little bit blind on it. Everybody wants to blame him for everything. I don't blame him for everything, but I do in some ways. I think everybody was collectively blind to the situation that could have happened. When we put 34 cars in a track that has now progressive banking. See, 2005, we had a flatter banking. 2011, now you got multiple grooves, a newer pavement, and banked corners. So you're now on the gas almost at all times, going by 220 plus miles an hour with open wheels and open cockpits. It was bound to be a problem, and I knew something was wrong. When the race started, I was hold on for a second. The race was on TV, so I remember watching the first several laps, and I knew that if something goes wrong, it's going to be very bad for the championship. I wasn't thinking about the other guys. I'm like, okay, I know Dan Weldon's trying to do something from the back, like a little challenge or so. And was interested and keen to see how that would play out. Was it lap 5 or lap 6? Because those laps went by fast.
Well,
that there's contact on the backstretch at Las Vegas.
It was really early on. I think it was lap 6.
It was between the start and the crash.
Yeah,
and I remember like, oh my gosh, if they wrecked, it would have taken out like Dario or somebody from the championship. Yeah. And then lap 11.
Oh,
Wade Cunningham, the Kiwi, and James Hinchcliffe, the Canadian.
Yep.
Contact. The wheels touched. And I knew like, okay, this is bad. And it was like 2 or 3 cars flew in the fence. Like, what is going on? And then the worst part about the crash was that I thought it was over until like half a second later when I saw 3 other cars fly in the same direction of the crash.
Yeah.
And it didn't look like a crash. When the fire broke out at the end, it didn't look like a crash. It looked like an actual, I'm going to say, it looked like an actual terrorist bombing. It looked like a building exploded. That's the kind of flames that were looking like after the crash, and it was very scary. And most of the drivers that climbed out, I'm like, okay, that's great. Everyone's climbing out. But we knew a lot were hurt. Of course, Pippa Mann was seriously hurt. Will Power was in the wreck. We knew, oh no, like he's out of the championship now. Rule him out. Dario wins it again. That was what's on my mind. I'm trying to, redirect my attention.
Yeah.
Not think about it. I wasn't on social media or the internet at the time, but I did, have access to 1 or 2 computers in the house back then.
Yeah.
Just to look at what was going on. And I felt like staying off the computers was a better idea. Just leaving on ABC, because I forgot to explain. I don't think anyone knows or remembers, but if they knew me long enough. But my old house had 2 TVs, so I had one TV on the right. That was like the new flat screen HD. Back then, you had the old round ones. Yeah, we kept the old round one till before we moved. At the end of 2014. Because I don't think I knew you back then. No, I was so far from that. But I had the old square TV. We left it in the same room. And I had my original Xbox on, so I was like playing NASCAR Heat 2002 on my original Xbox during the Beat the Heat challenges under the red flag, waiting for the race to get back going. And I left the other TV on. I'm like keeping it on what's going on. And then I remember leaving the game on pause more and more and more. I'm like, wait, what are they talking about? The track is repaired. And usually when drivers get hurt or even lose their lives, it's morbidly common for drivers to get back in their cars, even if the worst of the worst happened and just don't want no part of it. Look at the 1964 Indy 500, for example. It took that many years for the race to actually be stopped over a crash. And the crash looked like a bomb went off.
Yeah.
And 2 drivers perished on site. And they still got back and went racing. That's just how racing works. And for some reason, I'm like, the track is repaired. I'm like watching the guys. The track is repaired. I hope Dan and everybody's doing fine. It's just fortunate. Trying to redirect my mindset to playing NASCAR in 2002 on my left TV.
Yeah.
Until the race gets back going. And then why they're not racing? Track is repaired. And then people are talking, then they hear there's a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
So good hour and a half, I think, after the crash happened. I remember a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was about 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, I just turned my Xbox off. I'm like, okay, it's enough. Just let's see what's going on. And I was involved in any blogs, but I opened up a site. I just typed in IndyCar, just see if any news outlets came out, because I didn't really care for the blogs. That was like the big thing. So I found a blog that said, Dan seriously hurt. Will the race continue? And then I went back to the TV, and just a few minutes later, you saw, everybody remembers what they saw. Randy Bernard, the CEO of IndyCar at the time, making that announcement. That's all. And of course, ABC halfway cut through, and then Marty Reed made that announcement. That tore me up. That was one of the saddest days of my life. just to watch my favorite driver die on live TV. That was some tough stuff. And I didn't know if I wanted to watch IndyCar again, to be honest, or even Formula One, because I was a Vettel fan. I still am. It was in its prime. Is this seriously my favorite sport? Is this what I like? And of course, that time I was just getting into hockey. The Bruins won the Stanley Cup. I'm like, looking, this is my personal experience. And I remember thinking, oh man, Dan would want his fans to keep loving the sport he loved. So that's what happened, I guess. And Dan Wheldon actually did have a lot of unique personalities. Let me talk about his background for a minute. Most drivers from his area either went to Formula One or raced, in the United States in kart. Rather than the Champ Car World Series. Dan Wheldon went to the Indy Racing League. Exclusively ovals until 2005. Very uncommon sight for Dan Wheldon. He was an outsider, and he could care less about that position in life. It's how I feel about myself sometimes. You're an outsider. People look at you differently. Every move you make, decision you make is questioned or even undermined, like saying, what is your position doing this for? Why are you going to do this? That's what Dan Wheldon did. He went to the Indy Racing League and took a risk. In fact, he was great at the ovals, too. He won the 2005 Indy Racing League Championship, while his whole background could have got him a Champ Car World Series title that year. I'm just being 100% with you guys. And, of course, he could have won it again in 06, but nonetheless, the best thing about all this is that Susie Wheldon, I think she's got a clothesline in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is where they resided in the United States. And the kids, Sebastian and Oliver Wheldon, they now have go-karting careers of their own. Andretti Autosport signed them too.
Yeah, like Dan Wheldon, he ran a total 128 RL IndyCar starts, 16 wins, 5 poles. He has his championship in 2005. He actually lost the 06 title by a tiebreaker. He had 2 wins compared to Hornish's 4, so Hornish got the 06 title. But yeah. Like
I think, looking at 10 years later, Dan would be proud of his kids, for sure. They got go-karting careers, pre-teens.
Yeah.
10 years, a lot has changed, and sometimes it also feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more about the background of the death of Dan Wheldon and everything that led up to it, go watch NASCAR Man History's video.
Yep.
Brock Beard's channels.
Yep. He has
Ian Perez 48.
Yep.
Great content. He had a good analysis on the situation.
Yep. Brock Beard uploaded a video the other day. I watched that.
Put it 100%. Huge.
Like also about that crash, another thing was the IndyCar package they had. That package they had was really close racing. 34 cars, and the package made everybody run real close to each other. That really didn't help with the layout.
I think Robin Miller said the Hanford device would have been helpful.
Yeah, but
Robin, Wind Tunnel, I remember watching Wind Tunnel later that night and seeing how Dave Despain and Robin Miller handled it, and even some of their ignorant callers were talked to in a polite way, which is incredible. Like, that is some of the best, just some of the best class in TV. I miss Robin Miller already. I know it's been a few months since he's passed, but Dave Despain, you always got to look back at the old Speed Channel episodes of Wind Tunnel and see how far racing has come.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think that's going to wrap up our podcast. We've done about 2 hours and 4 minutes in this one tonight. We'll be back next week, talk more endurance racing, see what happens in that ELMS championship as well as the W Series. Formula One back in the States. Of course, NASCAR heating up as always. My
Yep.
partner, Justin Bear, I'm Joe Lane Pavlon, signing off. You guys have a great night. See you next week.